What is going on, guys? As you know, we are IHC fans on this channel. We have been doing a lot of IHC products on Steven's F-150. We've lowered it, installed the helper bags. Well, today, IHC has hooked us up with a lowering kit for Chevy Silverado. Guys, let's get right into it. Alright guys, if you haven't seen them yet, there are a couple videos of Corey's truck on the channel so far. I'll link them right here. Make sure you go check them out. But for now, Corey, tell us a little bit more about your truck.
So as you all know, it's a 2003 single cab, almost an F-150 Silverado. At the end of the first video, I said we were going to be dropping it. It took a little longer than I thought, but because I needed new tires. As you can tell in the first video, I had huge monster truck Dennis Anderson tires. Now
I'm gonna insert that clip right here.
I do not have big Dennis Anderson tires now. We put those on last night to kind of speed up the process and helps with I won't rub, hopefully, at all.
Because it was rubbing on the sway bar.
Yeah, it was rubbing just a little bit when I turned really sharp.
Yeah, you can see it back in there, right there.
Yeah. And for as low as I'm going, it's a 4.6 drop from IHC. I'm a huge fan of IHC, so yeah, Steven's rolling it over here, as you can see.
Oh yeah, so guys, I know I just inserted the clip, but these are the tires he had on before.
So just doing the tires alone gave him a drop.
Yeah, like we didn't realize how much the tires alone was gonna drop it. And so I'm kind of freaking out about it, but yeah, let's get into it. As I said a while ago, I got the 4.6 drop. Steven here is way better than explaining this than I am, so I'm gonna hand it over to him.
All right, guys. So like Corey said, 4.6 from IHC. Where's their little logo at? On there somewhere. So check those guys out if you're trying to lower your truck.
Check them out. Tell them we sent you.
Yeah, make sure to mention the Brian Lewis vlog. But anyway, we like IHC because it doesn't change your spring or shock rate on the front, so it rides a lot like stock. So what you will change on the front are your control arms. And the front kit comes with these control arms, grease zerk, it'll have ball joints. This kit comes with sway bar links. So let's go ahead and lay all this out. So these are upper control arms. These big old suckers are your lower control arms. So these already have a ball joint mounted in them. Upper ball joints. So this is all for the front. And then on the rear for the 4.6, you will need to do a C-notch, and this is a bolt-in C-notch. Both boxes have instructions for front and rear. They are separate. What you will do is scan these with your phone camera, and it'll pull up a very detailed instruction on how to install both of these. I'm not going to really show you that. We'll kind of walk you through each step as we do it. And as far as C-notches go, so these two plates will be bolted to the frame once you cut your C-notch and drill your holes. These will be bolted. And then a flip kit. So you got your brackets, 2 flip blocks, nice little detail work there.
Oh yeah.
Oh, these plates got that same little pattern in it.
Oh, that's cool.
Little spade.
Nice. Detail. Guys, all this stuff is made in the U.S.
Yeah, they make it themselves, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah. And then, oh, they even got logoed shocks now.
Oh,
Look at that.
nice.
So they got, the rear will come with new drop shocks. The front, obviously, you still run factory. And another thing, Corey was looking at different drop kits and worried about because this is an older truck, and he was wanting new ball joints and bushings and all that stuff in the control arms. So, which good thing with this kit, everything's new. So, and it even came with sway bar links for the front, which he was wanting. So, you don't have to worry about getting all that extra stuff whenever you go to drop it. But at this point, we're gonna get it on the lift and get these tires off of it. And tonight it's getting dark. I think everybody's trying to get home. So we'll probably get back with you in the morning to start installing some things.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.
We went ahead and took off the hitch, the spare tire, and what did you call that, Steven? The spare tire?
Yeah, the holder for the spare tire.
Basically the whole thing. I'm not going to tow anything. It's probably going to be too low. It's going to be too low to get to the spare tire. So we're going for weight reduction at this point. So, yeah.
All right, guys, it is the next morning. I bailed out a little early. These guys hung around. They did some extra stuff. But what I've noticed, Steven's already trying to take stuff apart without the camera running. He always complains to me about that, but here he is doing the same thing.
Yep, so we're just going to get right into it this morning. Obviously, we're working on the front first. We got to take this steering knuckle off. If you don't know what the steering knuckle is, it's what holds your wheel bearing. Tie rod in attaches to, and the upper control arms attached to. So we're going to get this off this morning, get the control arms out, and hopefully get this thing lowered today. So, Corey? All right, to explain a little bit what I'm doing here, what I already done off camera. Took the wheel speed sensor off the wiring harness here. It just runs up the front here, a couple clips. Take the actual connection loose at the top here. Going ahead and undoing the brake line from the knuckle and control arm here. Just a couple 10mm bolts there. And then I'm going to take the brake caliper off. I'm going to take the bracket off with the caliper. And then I'm going to hang it over here to the side out of our way. So let's get that off of here. Alright, so that thing's being a pain. Junk old Chevys here. Rotor's already loose on his, so go ahead and get that out of the way. Sometimes you might need to give it a little assistance with a hammer to get it free. Alright, so this is your steering knuckle wheel bearing assembly. Take the tie rod end off, lower control arm, and then the upper control arm is going to be up here. So, gotta figure out what size these are. Alright, that bottom one didn't want to pop free. I ended up just smacking the bottom of the ball joint. We're replacing it anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. Technically, you're not supposed to smack the end of them because you'll mess up the ball joint themselves, but
Let's get replaced anyway.
oh well. So, now that that's out of the way, you can kind of see these control arms now. So, the lower one is going to be under spring tension. So you'll want to put something up underneath here whenever we start undoing that. But we got to get the shock out of the way. I think it just unbolts from the bottom and then from the top and then just kind of comes out and then the shock's out. Sway bar links usually break whenever you try to undo them. So
See them big old balloon tires was rubbing.
yeah, his oversized monster truck tires.
Dennis Anderson tires.
Tahoe, baby, Tahoe special.
So figure out what size this stuff is and get this off here. What, you doubt my my grip? So the sway bar comes apart. Unfortunately, there's no nut on the top, so I had to use a pair of pliers. But it's like a 15, so get that bad boy out of the way. Like we said, this does come with new sway bar links, so if yours are all rusted and stuff, just cut those suckers off.
Chevrolet and Carhartt, like a rock.
I am taking the bolts out of the upper control arm right now. They are a 21mm, and that'll get this upper control arm out of the way. upper control arm is now out. Now that I can fish this other bolt out of here, maybe. On the other side, I'm probably gonna take the lower first so the spring can be out of the way. We're gonna be removing this bump stop. I need to take the shock out. So let's get this shock out, bump stop off. Yeet yeet, brother.
Oh, goddamn.
So, explain.
Do I really want to put this on camera?
I mean, you got to, because...
All right. All right, basically I made a boo-boo. And I'd say that's factory spring. That's pretty freaking long. Anyway, all the tension on this spring was held in by the shock. So whenever I was loosening it, and the nut got to the end, it went kapow. So yeah, don't do that. Put something underneath the lower control arm here.
Yeah, you even said that in the beginning of the video, though, that you had to put something under it.
Yeah, but I don't know. My brain wasn't working this morning, and this...
Didn't get much sleep last night.
Listen, it's still early. We're still half asleep, so...
We're too excited.
Luckily, nothing bad came of it, and it just pushed it down pretty
I'm
good.
just really sad I didn't have the camera rolling.
I'm glad he didn't. So, learn from our mistake, and make sure something's underneath your lower control arm. This is the way you're supposed to take this lower control arm off. On the other side, as you've seen in just the clip just now, as I undone this, and all the spring pressure was still on control arm, and it came down. Luckily, Brian wasn't filming, but anyway. So this is how you're supposed to do it. We got a transmission jack underneath here. If you don't have a transmission jack, you can use like a floor jack or something. Just kind of take it down to the floor and undo it that way. That way you don't have all that spring pressure coming off at once, and you can lower it, slowly let that down with the jack. So
Safety first.
yes, yeah, safety. So yeah. But that screw up is over. I need to take the shock rest the way out. It's held in by these two screws or bolts from the bottom side, which is a 13. So we'll undo these from the bottom side. And then your shock, which we are reusing, comes out the bottom side, like so. Bam. Next step is get this lower control arm rest the way out. Bam. Oh, that's heavy. That's a little heavier than I expected. There we go. So that is it for the disassembly on this side. One thing I will note, since we aren't actually filming the passenger side, is in the instructions, this little pocket here for the front, you actually have to cut out and make a little bigger for spacing to free up some room for that control arm for the alignment and stuff. So we will probably highlight that.
Guys, look how incredible this stuff is from IHC. Huge shout out to IHC once again. I mean, this stuff is sweet, guys. Look at all the detail.
Well, all right, while we're at it, since I'm talking about this hole in the pocket thing, so this is how you get the instructions if you are wondering. So I got my phone, it's an Android, I got it on the camera, and you just over it and it pulls up show options, open in browser, then it downloads it. Well, yeah, there we go. Anyway, they should download it to your phone, and then you should be able to open it. And all the step-by-step instructions on how to do this.
In color, perfect, clear pictures.
And yeah, they tell you don't be an idiot like me. They say hold that lower control arm. So anyway, let's see if I can see where they cut the hole in this pocket. Yeah, so there it is. So then gap it out. So there's room for, and this is passenger side front. So it would be.
Well, when we're doing it, we're gonna speed up this side on a time lapse, but when we get to this, I will highlight this with the main camera.
Yeah, we'll highlight that later. But I just want to make note of that. So now for assembling these upper control arms. The lower control arms come with the ball joint already in it. The upper does not. So it comes in a package. The ball joints come with its hardware. God, I'm losing everything this morning. And the ball joints themselves. And this sucker will be mounted like so. And then, yeah.
And make sure you don't mount it upside down.
Upside down or like this.
Yeah.
Because that'll change your ride height and mess everything up. So don't do that. Make sure it's mounted the correct way. So I had to go through this on my F-150 too, try to figure out which way it was mounted. Which I think the instructions are a lot better for this kit, in my opinion.
Speaking of the F-150, guys, if you haven't seen any of those lowering videos, I'll link those right here. Make sure you go check these out after you get done watching this video.
Now that I've done a bunch of stuff off camera and Brian has finally found his camera that we can start recording again, let's get back into this. So I went ahead and put the ball joints on. They are some 13mm bolts. All the hardware is provided. One thing I don't think I've talked about yet is that whenever you get the control arms, they don't have the grease zerks inserted into the arms themselves. They all come in a bag separate. You'll have to sort them out, but basically the upper control arm, take these angle ones so you can still get to the grease zerks whenever it's in the truck. And then on the lower control arms here, there are some straight grease zerks.
And guys, be easy with these. Do not strip them out.
Yeah, don't strip them out, don't cross thread them, because you are going to want some grease up in there. Don't put any grease in the actual ball joint until you install it, obviously. And then part of putting this on and putting the knuckle back on is this ball joint is actually bigger than the factory hole on your spindle, so you will need a 1/2-inch drill bit and a drill, and you're going to have to ream this hole in the top of the spindle, not the bottom, just the top. So this ball joint will fit. So I'm going to do that before I get it all set up in there and everything be in the way. So I'm going to go ahead and ream that hole now. And then I really don't know how much this needs to be reamed, but I'm feeling like just that little bit.
Okay, so that was pretty effortless.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, check my fitment here, make sure that it all fits right. And Stobe has finally joined the party 2 hours later.
The Stobelator.
It's your boy Stowe, back at it again. Guys, if you don't remember Stowe, he was in the tailgate assist video.
This is true.
Effortless.
So yeah, it was just that little bit of drilling that needed to be done.
So no heavy drilling
No.
necessary, just to knock out a little bit of it. I mean, it took, what, a whole 5 seconds?
Yeah, honestly, if you had a heavy enough rat tail file to fit down in there and you didn't have a drill bit, you could probably ream it out with a rat tail file. Probably take a little bit longer, obviously, but nothing major. I actually thought it was going to be a lot more work than that. So there we go. So at this point, I'm going to put the upper controller on first, even though Brian told me to take it off first. So the bolts will fit. Whenever we're going back together, we're going to need grease on the edges here so we ain't got a bunch of noises. And yeah. And then once it's in there, we'll grease the actual zerks. Get a little bit of multi-purpose grease here. A little tub.
Will you have to have an alignment after this for all
Yes.
the viewers asking at home?
Yes.
Because they're going to ask.
Yes, you need an alignment. And conveniently enough, we have one. But what we are going to do is these sleeves here. This is just your camber. So you'll want to just kind of put it in the middle here, so whenever you put it on a alignment machine, hopefully it's not that far out. So just make sure to try to line all these up whenever you go to kind of tighten it down, that stuff's in the middle. And then also, you don't want to tighten it down with the control arm setting like this, because then it won't ride right. And it'll mess up your ride height. So what I suggest doing is kind of hand tightening everything, and then kind of holding the, like, I know the truck's going to ride probably about like that, and then I'll kind of hand tighten it down, or we'll tighten it down with a wrench by hand about there. That way I can put it together and it sit right once we get it together. On these pockets here, you might have to flare them out. The uppers usually don't have a problem. On the lower, they say take a hammer and just open these up a little bit. It makes it easier putting these control arms in. I think those might be a little bit wider than the stock ones. So it just makes putting this stuff in a lot easier. So. There you go. So just like that. Real easy.
Nothing too major.
Nah, just a couple little taps will give it enough of a movement. All right, on these lower control arms, these did come with stickers, P and a D. Not a DP, but P and a D. Passenger driver, not DP. Anyway.
I see what you did there.
So, these do need to be lubricated as well. Same deal as what we did on the fronts. Grease erks once it's together. Obviously, if you don't have the stickers on yours, you can just compare them to your stock factory one. Your sway bar link mount's going to be towards the front of the truck, so there's a good indicator of which way to put it. It does look like it comes with new screws for the shock mount, so we'll be able to use that. Grease this up and put this in. Alright, so now that we got this lower control arm in, Joey's over making noise.
It's your boy Stove back at it again with another one.
I was looking at this bottom spring. There is no rubber left on it.
Oh, there he is. Look at that.
So I'm hoping there's not much noise, but the other side, it didn't have any noise factory, so there's some left on the top. But either way, this thing, there is one little locating nub here left on this little rubber mount. So this is gonna sit up in here, maybe like so. And then we'll bring this spring up, and we'll take the shock, transmission, jack thingy, and put this back together. Well, after the spring almost fell on my head, I don't know if Brian was recording that, we were trying to figure out this shock. So this obviously isn't a factory shock, and it's got like this hard upper piece. It does not fit through the bottom. Well,
neither would a Pringle can.
Pringles. Once you pop, you can't stop. Anyway, so you'll take the shock. This one actually will actually fit this way. So then we're going to mount it that way, and then put the spring on and put it on up in there. So, yeah.
Walker Halls is finally in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you go
A little late,
follow
but
him,
better late
subscribe
than
him,
never.
But do not ever expect him to be on time.
I wish that wasn't true.
No, you're lifting it up off of the rack.
Okay, and just so you know, you do need to be careful with actually lifting the truck like I am doing right now.
Spring compressors.
Yeah, we might have to actually compress this spring a little bit so we don't flip the truck off the lift. So I went and grabbed a spring clamp that we have back here. I didn't have to tighten it down super tight, but I did have to clamp it a little bit just to get everything lined up and positioned the way it needed to be. Which it was a fight. Oh, I am not gonna lie to you, it was a fight. I finally got the top nut on the shock. So all this is mounted. I should be able to take the spring pressure off here. And I did lift the truck a little bit, but you gotta be careful, obviously. You don't want this thing falling off the lift. So there's that. So now we got all this mounted, we can get the steering knuckle back up in here. And then I believe the instructions say undo the sway bar to kind of free it up and get the sway bar links lined up. And then you'll tighten the sway bar. We'll get to that in a minute, but I'll probably get the steering knuckle back on and then we'll deal with the sway bar after that. So, all right, so I'm gonna take Walker Hall's assistance here and we're gonna be putting this knuckle back on. Like I said, before you do this, make sure you ream this top hole, 1/2-inch drill bit. Don't take much, but it does need to be done. So go ahead and get this on here.
Let me spin that nut.
Go.
Heck yeah.
And then we'll tighten these down. And
Cotter
then
pin.
the control arms, the nuts and stuff up here and on the lower are still loose. We'll tighten all that all the way down whenever we do the alignment, but I'll probably tighten these up a little bit more to where it's actually pinched down so it ain't all like just slop whenever we go to the alignment machine. But let's go ahead and get this tightened down here. Now that I got my 19, this top one was like 50 something. So once you get it tight, make sure you get it turned to where, put the cotter pin. Don't need Corey's front suspension coming apart down the highway. So I'm probably going to go ahead and grease, well I am going to go ahead and grease all these fittings now before I get the tie rod in. That way I can move this out of the way and get that lower ball joint one. If Corey can get the camera in there, you can see it. You got to kind of, well, turn the thing. Turn the knuckle so I can get to this one. And I'm gonna get all those greased up, and then I'm probably gonna go ahead and loosen up the sway bar, get that sway bar up in there, and then the last thing I'll do is attach the tie rod. That way I'm not fighting the tie rod out of my way while I'm trying to do the sway bar. Got an old school grease gun. We're gonna go ahead and pump some grease into these. You're supposed to, on these ball joints, you want to pump it in until you start seeing the boot swell. You don't want it to swell too much and bust, but you do want to make sure you're getting grease in there. Which I think this grease gun is out because it's not doing much pumping. So let me put a new grease pack in this and get back.
He's got something in there. But I mean, like you can see the, like you look on this side here, it's still wrinkled up.
Right, yeah. As long as it's bulged out a little bit, you don't want it to pop.
Right.
Yeah. All right, so we've been fighting the grease zerks here. Actually fighting one in particular. This upper ball joint zerk, it didn't act like it wanted to take any grease, so we actually swapped out the zerk just to make sure it wasn't a problem with that, and we tried it on the other ball joint. What we are noticing is, I guess the joint inside is really tight and not allowing grease to go around. So we're filling the top part of the ball joint with grease, but then can't get any more in it. What we're gonna have to do, we tried working this back and forth, try to work some down into the boot, and we haven't gotten a whole lot in it. What we're gonna do is probably drive it, kind of get it on the road, and then revisit this zerk in particular. I said I was gonna go ahead and do the sway bar, but I think what we're gonna do is go to the other side. We got that all tore apart, or Joey got it all tore apart, and then we are gonna cut clearance for that upper control arm and get that one ready, basically the same position. That way we can get these brake calipers off that sway bar so we're not fighting the calipers in our way while we're trying to deal with the sway bar as well. So I think I'm just going to put this side on hold, get the other side together, get that hole cut, and yeah, let's get back to you. So we are on the passenger side. The instructions, if you read it, says you only have to clearance the front passenger pocket for the upper control arm. So what we're going to do is we got an acetylene torch here with a cutting tip, and we are going to just trim up the edge of this pocket so the control arm actually can slide back in there all the way for alignment purposes. This factory pocket isn't deep enough for the new control arm, so it will hit that area and won't allow you to have the correct adjustment that you need. So we'll get that cut here and get this side back together. I cut towards the rear and then test fitted the control arm. So just cutting the rear alone freed up the control arm to have the movement that I needed. But whenever I noticed whenever I was putting the control arm in and the control arm, moving the control arm up, the grease zerk on top, so the grease zerk's on top, whenever the control arm comes up, it pushes that zerk back up on that top portion of the hole. So I went back and cut just a little bit on that top to clearance for that grease zerk. So you may or may not have to do it on yours. We had to do it on this one, so I just want to give you all that little bit of information. So we got both sides all the way together as far as the control arm, wiring, brake all back together. What we're doing now is a sway bar link. I did not connect either side because you got to loosen the sway bar and get it adjusted so everything fits. So I didn't want to fight one side and not have the other side together. And then I still got the tie rods off, so they're out of the way as well. But anyway, sway bar link, come with new ones. So I'm going to run it top down because of the way the control arm is made. Corey wants to bring the camera over here so you can actually see something. So the control arm's going to go this way. There are bushings, so the bolt will be up. Another bushing. Sleeve, collar, whatever, sleeve. And then there's going to be another washer, then bushing. And this is why I wanted to leave both sides disconnected so I could adjust it, make everything fit. And then on the bottom side, another bushing, washer, and nut. And then obviously we'll take a wrench to hold that and then tighten that down, but I'm gonna put the other side on first. We're back from lunch. Everybody got a nice little lunch break in. So now we're ready to start on the rear. Right now we're kind of mapping out the C-notch. Trying to decide if we want to cut it before we move the axle, which I think we are going to. We've made that decision. We're going to cut it before we move the axle. Just to kind of get that out of the way. Rather than having all this stuff loose and in our way. And the axle's still low and supported. So I've already taken a piece of cardboard. The instructions say take the frame rail here, measure 2 inches down from the center line, and then 3 inches back. So I took a piece of cardboard, I cut this to match the C-notch, and then just kind of use that as my template. So I'm just going to take a torch and cut kind of inside here, and then shape it out from there. There is nothing on the passenger side. The reason why we're doing this side first is there's no lines or anything on the back side to worry about. On the other side, you got the fuel tank and some electrical wires and a brake line that go past there, so we'll have to watch out for all that stuff. So let's get to cutting. Maybe I can get Corey to cut this first hole. First piece cut.
Don't need that. Throw it away.
Hello, Joey.
Wow, there.
So we did end up getting our rough hole cut. The plate fits up in here nice. We cut a little much, so we got some play. We got a little bit of play. So what I'm doing is just making sure the center is lined up, and then we're just trying to map out where we're going to drill our holes. So you got 8 holes total that need to be drilled. So we're going to mark all those, drill our holes, and then we're going to go back and paint on the frame so this stuff doesn't rust. All right, guys, so we've been doing some drilling, cutting and stuff. A little update here on this side, passenger side here. We've got all the holes mapped out and drilled. Now we're just drilling them to the right size. I think we still got like four more holes that we need to ream out the rest of the way. We went ahead while we were doing that and cut this side, and Joey's fitting her up here. I used my cardboard template and put that up, mapped it out, and then we just used a cutoff wheel, because on this side we do have this wiring and a brake line on the back side. Yeah, let's get this under here and look. So, got this brake line and this wire that run right across the back side of this. So you want to be, and fuel tank, but you want to be extra careful. So rather than using the torch to blow all the metal all over everything, we just use the cutoff wheel, cut this out, and we're actually one cut and everything fits. So it wasn't like 3 cuts like the other side. So I suggest using a template and a cutoff wheel and just cut it off that way. Obviously we are bolting this thing in, so these holes over here are taking a minute to drill because we're stepping it up. Like, we started with small drill holes and then we're upping the size. So this is almost done and we'll be able to bolt this in. We're going to clean it up and paint it before. I got some black paint around here somewhere, but we'll paint all this that we cut up black so it doesn't rust, and we'll show you that whenever we get that done. All right, guys, so I haven't really explained how we're doing these C-notches or how we line up these bolt holes. Once we get it cut, there's a center line on this. Measure, I think that's a little, anyway. Center line with this for the C-notch. And what we'll do is we'll mark one hole and put a center punch, and then typically drill a hole at a time, or the first hole, and then put your bolt in it, do another hole, center punch it, and then make sure everything's centered, and then do all your other holes so everything lines up. But I just wanted y'all to see what we do, or how we line this up. So we got holes drilled on this side, line it up, and then find your center on these holes. So this one's, I don't know if y'all can see that center punch. Where is the center punch? Grab the center punch. And then Joey, just go ahead and mark.
I'll try to.
What about right there?
Yeah. All right, so we're ready to bolt this in. Our good spray painter over there, Grant, decided to paint the whole frame and leaf spring. So we're ready to bolt this in. They want to run the bolts this way. Grant seems to think this is the only way that bolts can be ran. So run the bolts. Tighten these down after 100 miles, 500 miles, and then 1,000 miles. So just to make sure they stay torqued so they don't loosen up on you. Obviously, if you weld it in, then you don't have to worry about it. But so. This is, so we've got both C-notches in, everything's tightened down, torque to spec, a couple ugga-duggas. So now we are gonna start on the flip. So what's gonna happen is this axle, where it's at now is underneath the leaf spring. It is gonna go on top of the leaf spring. One thing, I don't know if we noted or mentioned this earlier whenever we started, we did find out that this has 2-inch drop shackles in the rear. For the 4.6 drop, you're supposed to reuse the OEM shackle. So technically this is going to be a 4.8 drop. I think this does have an adjustment for a 1-inch shackle, so that'll make it a 4.7. So we might be sitting a little bit lower in the rear whenever we're done than we should be, but just get stock shackles. If it comes down to it, we'll just get stock shackles and straighten that out. But for now, let's just get the flip done. So if you guys watch the F-150 video, you know the back is kind of a pain getting the leaf spring pin out, because the leaf springs have to, the pack that is held together, the pin, you got to clamp the spring together and get that pin out and flip it. So for now, we're going to go ahead and take the shocks off. Just a couple bolts on each shock under here. So take this bottom bolt out and then the top bolt out for the shocks. And then a couple of these brake line brackets from the far side there to give us some slack, because we're going to have to drop this down, undo the leaf spring, and then swing the leaf spring out of the way and get the axle above it. So I guess let's get to it. Yeah, now we need to undo these parking brake cable brackets. Get these brackets loose for this parking brake cables and such. Well, brake lines and such. Let's see here, hold on. Yeah, okay, that's why I'm taking that one off. So there's this bracket here for this brake line, the main brake line that comes down to here. It's got 2 bolts that run through the top. And then we got the parking brake cable over here. You got this bolt and this bolt. So we'll take those free. That'll give us some slack in the parking brake cables so we can get the the axle diff out of the way. So we'll go ahead and take those off now. And yeah, get this thing flipped so we can call it a night. All right, now that we got that loose, go back up with it a little bit. Just enough. And then, so these pins and the leaf springs, we will take a pair of vice grips, clamp here, and take the nut off the top here, this top plate, which these plates, pretty sure we don't reuse these, or we don't use these, but just in case, we'll throw them there for now. So once we get this vice gripped, you want to put something to clamp the leaf spring pack together so it doesn't come apart whenever you take that spring out, and then flip that actual, we'll put the pin head on the top and the bolt will come through the bottom. So let's get to that. Oh, look at that. So a lot easier than the F-150. So we'll flip that pin around. Well,
Need a hammer.
my clamp's in the way.
Oh,
Yeah, try to. There you go.
and put this back on.
Yep.
My impact's probably not gonna go.
Well, yeah, well. Might have to shift the,
Oh.
well, can I shift it this way? There you go. A few ugga-duggas. Bam. Look at that. Easy as that. Simple as cake. Now for the other one. All right, so those leaf spring pins ended up being a lot easier than on the F-150. So now that that's done, what I thought was going to be probably the hardest part of this whole job is done. Now we are going to undo the leaf springs. We're going to have to, since he's got these 2-inch since he's got these 2-inch drop shackles, we are going to have to move this. But to get this leaf spring underneath the axle, you got to undo this backside anyway. So we're going to undo the backside, get it swung, the axle swung over it, and yeah, well, I'm going to do that on both sides, and then jack the axle up, put the leaf springs back on, and bolt the axle down. So let's get these leaf springs undone. All right, what we need to do is get this diff twisted, try to roll the jack that way. So that took the 3 of us to get that flipped. But basically we lowered the axle, shifted it one way, got the leaf spring down, and then shifted it this way and got the other leaf spring down. So now that those are down, this drop shackle I was going to show y'all, Corey keeps running away with the camera. It's got 2 mounts here. We're going to go, because that should be a 2-inch drop, this should be a 1-inch drop. So we're going to move the shackle here once we get these back up in there, and then bolt it through these holes, and then that should be closer to stock height. Then once we get all that done, we'll be finishing putting the brackets for the flip up under the perch here, which looks like we might need to undo this brake line bracket. Or no, never mind. I'm looking at the wrong spot. It actually goes over here, not there. It goes here. So on this spot. And then, yeah, get the drop shocks on it and put this thing on the ground. All right, so you filming?
Yep.
So we ultimately got factory OEM whatever replacement shackle here. This one ended up not being able to work. The spring actually could not bolt up here and would hit on this back side. So rather than doing this whole drop and then have to put it back on the rack and change all this, we decided that it is best just to get the one that we know will work and will have the right ride height to match the front. So throw this sucker away and we'll be putting this on. So we had to do some figuring on these brackets here. The instructions are kind of cut off towards the end of this install. So once you get the leaf spring up and mounted, it doesn't tell you how these brackets are supposed to go. The brackets are actually taller and shorter on one front and back, which I guess we should have shown them without this setting here. But there is actually a spade on the bracket, and the spade goes towards the front.
Yep.
So, and if you look at the C-clamp bracket here, C-clamp bracket, it's got a spade. So that spade is going to be towards the front. So I guess that maybe they intended that to be like an arrow, like just a thing. But I wish the instructions specified. So then that, we'll put the plate like that, and then the spade, and then, like I said, on that block there, it'll go forward as well. So we'll get there's also another plate. This little plate here gets put on top. It's got a locating bolt. You just tighten this bolt, and then that'll locate this up on top for your U-bolts to run across and hold. And then that'll clamp. Actually, the spade's right there. I thought it was on the other underside. It's on the front place here.
Yeah.
Show them that front plate.
I did on the other side. Yeah.
Oh, did you?
The spade will be towards the front.
Yeah. So the spade towards the front.
Thanks, Joey.
Joey with his light. So let's get these U-bolts put on, and then we'll put the drop shackles on. Then we'll be wheels and put it on the ground. Corey. Yeah, drop shocks. It's been a long day, and I'm not pronunciating properly. Now that we got those, we got the drop shocks here. You do got these sleeves that got to be inserted, and then once you insert those, you can put them on. I want to spray a little bit of silicone spray, just kind of lube up this and help this slide in. So hopefully that helps at least. All right, Grant, where are you with the hammer? Grant, I need you with a hammer. Where are you at? Okay, guys, I'm getting kind of frustrated at this point, but once we got this together, we realized I felt like the drive shaft was going too far in the transmission. We were trying to get the shocks lined up, and they're not lining up. The rear shock won't mount, the front shock will. But once you get to looking at the center line of your axle and your wheel well here, it's too far forward, sitting on the bracket the way it is. So we're gonna undo everything and go back to the original way I had it and see how it all fits. We're not gonna film all this because obviously we've already filmed it and I'm getting frustrated. So let me get it back to where we had it before, tighten everything down and see where it sits. Oh, well, even if we can tighten it down, because what we're running into is this lower bracket. The hole is offset, so it will only, if it sits here, the axle has to sit at a certain spot for it to bolt up. So I don't know. We're gonna go back apart and see if we can't figure something out. So
Nope.
all right, I don't know if it was the 5th time of flipping these brackets or just Joey's a genius, but basically what we have found out that seems to work, the axle seems to be lined up, everything just sits a lot better. Shocks line up, so I feel like we're right this time. This bracket, spade goes towards the back, and then your flip bracket up here, the spade is towards the front. So like I had it the first time. But what's different was this lower bracket, which I know I tried it that way, but hey, whatever. We all make mistakes. This has been a long day.
Been a long day.
You'll have that on these big jobs. But we're just going to tighten down these shocks, get the wheels mounted on here, and then it's going to be the, I guess, reveal of this 4.6 drop. I guess we're ready to drop this down. Are you ready, Corey?
I was ready, so I'm gonna be. So yeah, let's drop it down.
All right, well, Joey, okay, I guess, how are we going to do this? Because I want to get his reaction whenever this thing gets on the ground. So
Well, then stand further back. Have
Corey needs to stand up closer, so.
All right, let's go.
All right, good for. There we go. Joey forgot how to operate his lift.
go super slow.
The anticipation. All the long days work. Been here since what, 8?
About 7:30.
And then what time is it?
8:30.
8:28.
12 hours
Oh my god.
leads to this. Oh, there's
Oh,
the rear touch. There she is.
We're gonna
The front's not clear.
no.
Oh yeah.
So you can kick that on now.
No.
Dang, we gotta lift
She
it.
low.
She's so low we can't even get off the lift now.
Here. Help.
You skip the boards.
Yeah.
I guess we're officially part of the low life now.
A little bit higher.
There we go.
Ready?
Yep. Oh,
Still. Because the plate's on that side. Here. Ready? See.
Yeah, just flap it down. Or just put it down.
there we go. There we go. There she is.
Sheesh.
Nope. Hey, bro. We gotta do the same thing to your truck that we do a Supra to get it on the lift.
Here.
Alright, try that camera, bro.
Here.
So, let's have Corey get in it and back it out here into the center lane so we can actually get a really good. Yeah, I'll have to move all this.
I need to get my phone.
I get to be a cameraman.
God. Dude, oh my god. You can barely put your hand in between the wheel and the fender.
She low, boys.
So, hang on. Everything's underneath. Okay. Oh, here's a screwdriver, or whatever you want to call it.
Maybe a little bit.
That front end is low.
Yeah, it is. Rubbing.
Maybe. Yeah, it definitely needs a line off front.
Oh, absolutely.
But
I think, I don't know, that, we may need to test that out.
we might Might end up using those drop shackles. That.
I think we need to. Or try it at least. Well, not tonight. But.
Heck yeah. So, obviously we're done with this, so we obviously still need to do an alignment, which we got an alignment machine. We're not going to film all that, but Brian's going to have links down in the description for IHC. Big shout out to them. Thank you for the discount. All our socials are going to be down in the description as well. So be sure to give us this video a like. Hit the subscribe for any new updates on this truck and all the other vehicles on the channel. Until next time.